Okay, cool. So Monday, it's already December, Monday after Thanksgiving. I'm gonna just try to mute everybody here just so I don't hear the echo. Okay. So we have Emilie Robidas on here. Emilie and I have known each other for a few years now. When we, I think when we hit elite for the first time back in the day, when we were waiting to go on stage, they line you up in alphabetical order. So her and I were right next to each other, and we were just chit chatting, and I could tell she had a little bit of an accent, and I was like, I think she's one of the very first Canadian coaches that ever hit elite. So she's hit elite 6 times. She also was the 2017 Leadership Award recipient, which is really cool. They give that out once a year to one of the coaches at Summit. She is a 14-star diamond in her first business center, 2-star in her second, 2-star in her third. She's in the Million Club, and she's also a 4-time Team Cup champion as well, captain of the Team Cup championship team for four different Team Cups, which is amazing, which kind of like gets me interested in kind of that side of the discussion, because I know that you work really closely with Bob Lucido. Bob was actually on our Diamond Call last month.
Very cool.
What happened? Did I just share my screen?
Yeah, you did. Someone did.
Oh,
Andrea.
I think my sister Andrea shared her screen for some. I don't know what happened. Andy, are you sharing your screen? Let me see. There we go. Thanks. So Bob was on our team call, our Diamond Call last month, and we had Keith Callahan on our Diamond Call a few months back. And so a bunch of us, all the leaders on our team, we've all read Bob's book. We're all reading it. We follow, Keith's book.
Yeah.
We follow kind of their business plan, the way they've kind of described the business, how to have success, long-term success in the business.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to have you on the call because I know you have that same philosophy. You've worked really close with Bob. You even thought you were in Bob's downline for a while because you were working with him so closely. So it was kind of interesting to see that you were a 4-time Team Cup champion, which is like, huge Success Club numbers. And I was curious if there was like a point in your business where you kind of decided to make a shift from going all in on the Team Cup strategy, the Success Club strategy, and decided, okay, maybe I got to shift my mindset a little bit here.
Yeah.
And started talking to Bob and Keith and kind of started going down that path. Was there a shift at some point where?
Well, there was definitely a shift, but I think the way that I used Team Cup helped me develop my leadership skills. So just to give you a bit of perspective with my stories, I've always been super competitive by nature. Not so much of a team player, very individual. Back in the day when I was playing soccer, I would take it so seriously and I wanted to win so bad that sometimes I would get back home and like cry to my mom and be like, I don't understand why they don't want to win. So I'm sharing this story because I did have to do a mindset shift from being like the competitive, like I want to be at the top of the leaderboard type of thing, to, all right, I need to become a better leader and I need to become a better team player and also learn to teach what I'm doing and not just try to do it myself. Because at one point I realized that I was only one person and I could only do so much. The first Team Cup we won, I guess we didn't really set out to win so much the first time, but we got close in numbers and then it gave us the motivation. But for me, I took it as an opportunity to really teach and mentor closely a small group of people. And I worked with my downline. So obviously it's one thing to do Team Cup and like look at people in your team and be like, who's at the highest on the leaderboard? And let's all team up together so we can have the most points. That's one thing, but that's short-term win. Like it doesn't build for the long-term game, if you will, because you're not working with your downline. So I've always done that. I've always worked either with people on my downline, specifically personally sponsored coaches, but it could be people in my downline. So that created volume, and that created an opportunity for me to work with 4 other coaches super closely and like really share everything that I was doing. Because one thing, if there's one mistake I made, and I still catch myself sometimes thinking, okay, I'm assuming sometimes that people know what I know and think the way I think. And I remember, Patrick, you mentioned that on our call, and I thought it was very interesting because you said the most important thing as a leader and a mentor is to teach people how to think. And I really had to understand that not everyone goes through the same thinking process as me. And I had to like sit down and be like, okay, how can I break things down with a step-by-step process and really emphasize on like, this is what I do, step 1. And then this is how I invite. Here's my script or whatever. I'm not into scripts so much, but I do share scripts just as a matter of teaching the conversation process, and I think the flow that should happen. But I just assumed like that people had those communication skills, you know, that they knew how to speak to people, that they knew how to choose the right word and like omit the wrong ones. So I had to really just start teaching. So I don't know if the switch happened with Team Cup, but I took Team Cup to leverage my leadership skills and start really taking time to teach what I knew and how I was doing things. Because one thing that's frustrating at the beginning when you don't understand that is that, well, I mean, I'm going to speak for myself. I was like, in my head, it was like, it's much easier and faster to go make that sale myself. And it's guaranteed, if you will. It's not guaranteed because not everybody says yes, but you know, because I knew I wanted it so bad. And then to take the risk of the leap of faith to say, hey, I'm going to make time to like mentor someone, give them my time, you know, look at their conversations, teach them, and not have any guarantee, if you will, that it's going to pay off. Well, that's what leadership is. It's like investing in people, not knowing what the return will be, but knowing that in the scheme of the universe, you're doing something good and it's going to come back to you. So long answer, I'm really well known for my long answers.
Well, so how long were you like a coach before you won the Team Cup?
The first Team Cup, it was October 2013, and I signed up, like my first official month was January 2013.
Okay. So it was almost like almost a year. And that first year, had you found any leaders yet, or were you still trying to like kind of find your way and prove to people that you were serious about this and people were kind of watching a little bit closer?
Yeah, I was pretty fortunate. I have a girl, like my first real coach who signed up is still a coach today, and she's still like doing the business, and we became success partners.
Yeah.
So she was you know, she's heading Success Lab and still does the business today. So that's like was very motivated. But I really had to learn I realized, I don't know about your team culture, but we're very like strong with the challenge groups and the fitness first, and not so much with the business side of things, where people sometimes are more comfortable talking about the products and the experience as a client compared to the opportunity as becoming a business partner. So I had to make a switch from being solely a coach of challenge groups to becoming the leader of a team. And what I had to do is really craft my vision and own it and like scream it out loud.
Yeah.
So I teach that to the team too. I say, hey, like raise your hand if people come to you for fitness, like naturally now, like you've been in the business you guys are all diamonds. So at one point, like when you start talking about when you're talking about the fitness and the products and all that and your journey with the products and the programs, people eventually start like coming to you naturally. So I'm like, well, why aren't they coming to you for the business? And the reason why is because you don't talk about it. So I realized I had to talk about it more, and I made it a conscious practice to really focus on why I'm doing what I'm doing as a coach and sharing that vision and that mission loudly on social media, in my coach sneak peek groups. And it became a part of my identity on social media too. So I'm not just a fitness girl, I'm also an entrepreneur looking for other business partners. So I feel like sometimes that's a missing link where you're like, I don't know why I'm not finding people that want it like me. Like, well, do people even know that you have a team and that they can join your team? I heard that one time, if you don't invite someone to the business, someone else gonna do it. So I was like, okay, I better get on it. So I really made a shift with that and started to own it. And even before I had like crazy results, I was celebrating every win that I had. And that's one tip that I have is to talk about those wins. And like, maybe you don't have coaches that are producing, but what are you producing in your business right now? Whether it's just being consistent with showing up every day, like start where you are. Cause I hear that too. Like I'm sure Patrick, you can relate too. Like sometimes we've been in the business for so long that people join and they're like, they hope that they would have those 7-10 years of experience right away. It's like, no. You got to build it up.
You got to earn it.
Yeah.
What would you say is like the one thing that you learned from Bob Lucido that really stuck with you the most?
Oh, definitely the five stars in your down line. That stayed with me like, yes. And when I started the business and my upline, my personal coach quit the business a few years ago. My upline is an American. She helped me out at first and she was very nice, but I just took it and run it with it. But I remember, I think she shared that with me, the 45-second presentation.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like a PDF and I read that and it had that concept of finding your 5 golden ships. And it always stayed with me. It's like, I wasn't thinking I need like thousands of people. I need like 5 strong leaders, like, lifers that will commit to this. So it's
That's
always
so
been
funny. That was a huge shift for me too. Like reading that book, the 45-second presentation, it really makes you realize this isn't about selling 1 million things or signing 1 million people. It really comes down to finding just a few good ones.
Yes.
And that takes a lot of like doubt and uncertainty out of the business. All of a sudden you're like, I don't need 1 million. I don't need to sell 1 million things. I just need to find like 5 really great ones. And really it's not even 5. A lot of times it's just like 1 or 2, in each way.
Yeah. And that's been a focus and that's something that I track. So every time that I want to see something grow, it's something that I track. And I also started tracking my team volume. I feel like at first I was only looking at what I was selling myself. I was not interested so much in what the team was producing, so I started to really focus on that. So I've been doing weekly volume boards, like team volume boards for the team. So I've always done that like since almost the beginning. And I add the 250 plus on there, and then I'll put like the top 10 with their face on the board. And we also add the top recruiters. So everybody that has 2 coaches or more in the week gets their name on the board as well. So we do that for the whole downline. So the whole concept of what we focus on expands, I think it really applies to that. And if you want to see something grow, you should be tracking it. So if you want to see your income grow, you should be tracking your income and you should know exactly what you're making every week and having goals for that. And for me, it started literally like my first income goal was like, I want to match my salary that I was making at the end of my maternity leave, which was 55% of what I was making, which was like a few $100s a week. It wasn't that much, but I was like, if I can top that, we moved across the country. I resigned from my job and my son was 15 months old back then. And I was like, I don't want to go find a job on the West Coast. I don't know anybody. If I could stay home and do this job from home, because I had started a few months prior, and it's like, I'm making a bit of money. That's it. Again, that was the first goal. And then the second goal was like, if I can make as much money as my husband, that's a whole other story about money. But like, that was my goal. That was very important for me. I wanted my financial freedom, and in my beliefs about money is that money gives you power and independence in a way. So it has nothing to do with him, but all to do with me. But that was a driver for me. It meant that I don't like saying that, but let's just be transparent and vulnerable. That's how I saw it. It's like my value was tied to that in my head. So You can label this a negative belief, but it really got my butt working. So, because I saw the potential, I was like, well, if I did 300 this week, I can make 500. If I can make 500, I can make 1,000, you know? So it kept on going like that. And eventually, Beachbody does not guarantee any levels of success or income, but eventually we were able to buy a house out west because of Beachbody. You know, like we didn't have the means to do that. My husband was the only salary, like stable salary. And because we were bringing in money from this business, we were able to buy the house. And eventually it was like, okay, what's our freedom number? Like, what's the number that we need? And that's another thing that I don't know if it was from Bob or Keith, but I remember hearing that, figuring out your freedom number. And I have my team do that too. It's like, okay, how much money do you need to bring in so you can maintain your level of your lifestyle or increase it, whatever you decide, like decide what you want and then work towards it. So we sat down, we did our budget, you know, like the whole thing with what we must be spending, what's an extra, what we want to spend in traveling. And we came up with a number, and that was the next goal. The next goal was to hit that. And then it sounds crazy still when I think about it. Sometimes I have to remind myself how fortunate we are, because he was eventually able to quit his job as a power line technician, which was like bringing a big revenue and 6-figure income. Very dangerous job. And he was working many hours. And at one point he was able to say, hey, I'm done with this. So like it really started with that weekly $350 a week. And I was like, okay, if I sell 3 challenge packs back then, let's say it's $50 commission per challenge pack. It's like, oh, that's $150. If I sell 3 Shakeology renewals, it's $90. Like round it up, it's $250. So I had like my target for the week, and I knew what I needed to sell. And then eventually it's like, okay, I need to teach my team to do the same. And then it's going to increase my revenue. But like anybody else, at first, it was mostly my own sales, and then a little bit more of the team and a little bit more of the team. And now, you know, most of my income comes from the team. I still produce because I love this job and I want to keep doing it. But it's interesting to see the progression. So yeah, definitely the 5 golden chips, figuring out your freedom number and tracking all those numbers. Recognition is huge too. There's this tool, I don't know if you guys know it. I was just chatting with Dave Ward before the call because I wanted to confirm with him. Did you ever see that Excel spreadsheet where you can calculate like how much volume you need on each leg to produce? I don't know if you guys have that, but I can share.
It's like an Excel spreadsheet that you can
I have it here. If you want me to show it to you, I can show it. Hold on. Oh, that's funny. It's like my summit presentation is out there, and I wanted to find it earlier, but I couldn't find it, and it just popped. Okay.
What was your topic for your summit presentation?
I was talking about limiting beliefs about recruiting. But I was for Le Sommet, so it was in French. Maybe there's a few things I can pick up from there. Let me just open the doc because I don't see it here. But yeah, that's another thing that I use. And I also have my coaches go in their coach online office. If you click on my monitor my business graphical genealogy, and then you click on your name at the top, you go see your genealogy, and you see how many coaches you have on one side, your right leg, and how many coaches you have on your left leg. And like, assuming that you want to create perfection with the 2-to-1 ratio, it's a good way to gauge like, okay, well, if you have 100 coaches on one side and 2 on the other, well, numbers are not matching. Obviously, it's not a perfect tool, but for me, those were numbers that I was looking at. Let me just try to share this.
I like that you said what we focus on expands.
Yeah.
Like, it sounds like that's when you started making a shift to like focusing on team volume and getting your coaches to focus on team volume by creating recognition. Your team volume expanded. And I think there's a lot of coaches in the business that if you ask them what their team volume is for the week, you know, on average, they don't even know what it is because they don't pay attention to their team volume. So how is it supposed to expand if they're not giving it any focus? All of their focus is going to their own customers, their own success club points, And so that might expand, but they're not putting the focus on team volume, learning team volume, recognizing team volume, teaching their coaches team volume. That's when your team volume starts to expand. And the income part that you were talking about, that's what creates freedom. Money is just a vehicle that creates freedom.
Yes,
so
that's right.
I love that you made that shift that where you was like, all right, I need to start focusing on team volume, and then naturally it began to expand.
Yeah, and also celebrate where you are, because often I will hear, well, it's just that much. I remember my first year when I finished the first year, and I this image is so clear. I was pregnant with my daughter, my second kid. It was Christmas. Everybody was partying, and I was in in the living room doing my numbers for the year to know how much money I made. And I came up with a number, and I shared that with the team, and someone came to me in private. Well, the kind of person that's not the most positive person, obviously, but they said, I thought you would have made more than that. And I was super happy. I was like, are you kidding me? I'm doing this from home. I love what I do. Like, no one's telling me what to do. I get to decide. Like, that's a big thing for me. Like, not having a boss was like the biggest motivation for me.
Yeah.
And I was celebrating that.
To your soccer days where you just wanted to, get it done. You didn't have to listen to like a boss.
That's right. And my husband would be laughing if he heard me right now. He said that, I think last week, my fourth CBC became diamond, and he wrote that. She's like, becoming your own boss, and she doesn't really like being told what to do. I was like, yeah, well, you can turn something like that into something positive. So this tool, I'll share the link after. You guys can save it, and I would suggest that you create, copy it and create a new file. This is on Google Drive. It's just because if I give you the right to edit, then everybody starts playing with the numbers. But if you can copy it, you can use it. So let's say that your weekly income goal is, let's say, $1,000. You enter $1,000 here. This is as a diamond coach, right? Making $18 per cycle. It gives you exactly the number, the volume that you need on your strong leg to reach that, and the number of volume you need on your weak leg to reach that as well. And I mean, like, for me, sometimes I guess some people don't really click with numbers like that, but for me it was really visual. And here there's a reference for the board down there. And I've always been like really income driven. Of course, recognition is nice. No one really dislikes recognition so much, but just to give you an example, I think I shared that with you on our previous call, is that when I started this business, my husband was my first coach, and he was an emerald. And then, like I said, I didn't have anyone from my upline placed under me, right? So it was like, when figuring out my weak leg and my strong leg, well, it depended on who I placed where. But once I figured that out, I also started to sponsor coaches under my CBC, but place them under the weak leg of my husband. So I would sponsor them under my name, but on the genealogy, start building his weak leg. And 1 week we're making really good volume, and Damien, my husband's name is Damien, it's like, man, we're gonna make a really good pay with my business center this week, and it was $250, and he's like, something's off. Like, why is it $250? We made more. And it's like, and then we found out that we had caps. So that's when we're like, okay, well, now you need to become a diamond. So I feel sometimes we're so driven by getting to diamond, and then not seeing the reward so much other than the recognition, if you will, and then increasing your pay to $18 per cycle. But for me, it's always been like that. And also, after that, I placed a bunch of coaches. I won't rotate so much, in my placement. I'll focus on one leg for a period of time. Let's say for 1 month, or even for multiple months, I'll start building one leg under one CBC. And that's another trick that I've been teaching my team to, is you can still sponsor them under you and start building the weak leg of your spouse or the weak leg of a multiple CBC. And then you can also advance in rank if that's something that you want to do. But I went from 1 star to 6 in a matter of months because all my diamonds were all on the same leg. But that was more as a 1-star diamond, you can make $3,000 a week. So yes, it's important to get to 2-star because you want to get a second CBC. It's super important. Like get to 3-star as soon as possible. But other than that, for me, like it's a balance. And then again, like I don't want to go on the battle between recognition and volume. For me, they come like they're intertwined, right? They go hand in hand, because it's nice to say, yeah, I'm building for income and volume, but you still need to have leaders and create duplication. So at one point there will be diamonds, but it doesn't mean they'll be sponsored by you. So,
right.
But it's still volume. So it's just understanding how the structure of the compensation plan works and how you can use it to most benefit yourself. And then you have some coaches like that don't necessarily seek the income so much, and they want the recognition, and that's okay too. I mean, it's on them. It's just knowing what you want and then working towards it, and just knowing that your decisions are impacting your results.
Do you have a process for reaching out to coaches in your downline that aren't personally sponsored?
Well, you know what? I wasn't doing that so much, but I do work with the diamonds in the whole downline. So that's one thing. And like I spot them from the weekly boards. So
what about like before, like when you were kind of first starting out and you were like a diamond or a 1-star diamond?
Yeah.
Was that something you did? Is that something like that Bob talked about, or you read in the 45-second presentation?
It's not like a systemic thing that I've been doing, but it's like I see them. So I will go congratulate them for like their weekly volume or their rank advancement. Because I track that, because I see who's ranked. Well, we don't see who ranks advances, but I see like the new coaches in Canada, and usually if they have a French name, they're on our team. but that's a good way. And then I add them to the diamond team, and we do team calls like that. And I'll offer like mentorship as well to these, but I don't have like a system like you mentioned that I want to put in place, more like reaching out to people on Wednesday and like talking to them about the potential. I teach that on calls that I've done for team volume, where I'm going to have them, figure out what's their strong leg, what's their weak leg, what's their current potential right now, like telling them, hey, there's that much volume on your strong leg. You have the potential to make that much money in team bonuses.
Yeah, I love doing that on Wednesdays.
Well, that's really cool. So that's not something I've been doing and definitely want to start doing that more, because one-on-one is always best to reach out. I do it mostly more with my PS because I see it more obviously, but reaching down to the downline is definitely something that I want to start doing. And before I forget, because I wanted to share something else that clicked for me. My first summit, I remember Michael Neiman on stage saying, become a 10K diamond. And it was like to produce 10,000 in volume. So that was another, like one of the first goals that I had. It was like
10,000 team volume points per week total,
yeah.
like between
yes.
5,000 and 5,000.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, I need to reach that. So that was my, like, don't just be a diamond, be a 10K diamond.
Yeah, 10K diamond. I think I love that too. Because like you were saying, sometimes we make this diamond as like this big prize, this big shiny object that people shoot for. And then they get there and maybe make $18 that month. And maybe then one coach quits and they drop rank. And because they were so focused on diamond and the rank and they drop back to emerald, they like, it throws them off and they end up quitting the whole business. But if the focus is more of being a 10K coach or a 10K diamond, then if you drop, diamond rank for a week, it's not the end of the world, because that wasn't your big focus. Your focus was the long term. And
another thing that we don't talk about a lot, or we don't hear from so much from corporate side, is the matching bonus, as a leader too. But that's that's only for your personally sponsored. But still, if you're personally sponsored, like you sponsor someone who's making $1,000 in team bonus a week, that's $100 in your pocket. Like, yeah. So do the math. If you have 10 people like that, that's a lot of money in matching bonus, and there's no cap on a matching bonus.
Yeah.
So like that's another.
I say that to my buddy all the time that sponsored me, because he's like a diamond. I'm like, man, you're making some good money every week from
well, there you go. Well, mine quit. So my upline is doing a good one, I guess. Hopefully she's diamond. I hope she's diamond.
I know. Yeah. Who's your upline? You said she's American that told you to read the 45-second presentation.
I don't know if you know her. Her name is Jennifer. She remarried. She was Jennifer McConnell when we don't really talk so much. I mean, she's really nice. It's just we don't.
Yeah.
So
you're like at the point where you're like a leader of leaders, And then
and also like I didn't sign up. Like when I signed up with my coach, I knew nothing about this whole thing. Like she was super nice. My coach. She met up with me. She showed up with her binder with she showed up to my house and she had samples. So that was really sweet of her. And I'm forever thankful for her offering this to me. But like, I had no idea about like the sponsor thing. And I say that often because if someone comes to me and they complain about not having an upline, I'm like, I'm the wrong person to talk to.
Yeah. Same. Yeah. So when you first started, like, was your focus really on wanting to, because there's two ways you earn income in the business, right? Like one is based on the customers you help. Two is based on the customers that your team helps, right? So when you kind of first started, it sounds like you were really focused on earning an income by helping others, helping your customers. And then you had kind of an eye-opening moment where you're like, all right, the real income is going to come from teaching others how to do what I'm doing, teaching them how to think a little differently, and teaching them how to help more people.
And then I had, well, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just curious, like, so you talked about your team volume recognition.
Yes.
What is that? So you go in on Wednesdays and look to see your team volume for the week, and you can click on that number and you can see the people that are creating that team volume, how much each person's creating, and then you recognize the 10 coaches that created the most team volume for you.
I'll show you an actual board, actually. I had it out.
This is, I think, especially for the coaches on this call, like, this is something we all should be doing every Wednesday, is looking at our team volume, seeing who's creating it. And sometimes, like you said, you see names that you're not really sure even who they are. And then that allows you to reach out to them and recognize them and get them more excited.
And I want to share this with you guys because when I say start where you are, you're going to get what I mean. Okay. So this is my very first board. You see that? It's so pretty. My graphic game has improved, but my husband's taking care of the graphics now. But anyways, so that was my first board back in August 2013. Okay.
I like that you had 1,000, even though you didn't have anyone.
Yes. Well, that's creating vision. I'm like, I need people there. So I didn't have anyone hitting 1,000. Now every week, basically, we have people hitting 1,000. And also as a leader, you're setting up the bar for people. You can't expect people to think that they can reach 1,000 if you're not showing them it's possible.
Right. Yeah, I love that. I mean, that's the first thing I noticed was, oh wow, she added the 1,000 even though no one's hit it. That's
so back then our team was Team Big Dreamers, and our first summit was Dream Big, and I took that from there and I started there. My name is not on there. Back then my upline was doing boards, but right now, since we're not really connected, I also add my name on there so my team can see what I'm producing, because it's important for me that they see where I'm at. And also it keeps me accountable because I want to keep leading by example. And again, it's not a matter of like being the top producer, but it's also setting the example and showing what's possible. I think that's one of our biggest missions as a leader, is to paint the picture. And with that 1,000 there, I was painting the picture that we're going to get to 1,000. So that was the first board. I think I have we transitioned to Lion Plus. Now we're Lioness Empire. I made it a bit more feminine. But like in comparison, this is September 2019. That was a good week.
Wow,
so now we added also, because that's one thing. We realized that now people were super driven on creating volume, and that volume that you see is from customer base, right? Because it's if they sign them as a coach, it still produces for your team volume, but you don't see it as that volume. It goes in a different category.
So is this for the whole month of September, or just one week, or what?
That's 1 week.
Okay, so when you do this, like let's say, for example, Cindy had 1766 for that week. Is that the personal volume she created, or is that the team volume that she created?
That's the team volume. So what we do, since everybody's in my downline is from me and down below, we go on the board and we click on team volume and we click on RV or LV.
Yep.
LV. So that's
LV,
what we do.
RV. Yep. Cool.
Yeah. So those are the numbers that we pull out. So we've always done that. We never track PV. I know for some people too, like it gets complicated because they might have a lot of people that are not from.
I think right, yeah. Like, so if you look at your LV and your RV, which is your team volume in each leg, if there's people in that leg that were placed by the coaches above you, then I still think it's great to recognize those coaches, you know, whether or not you place them.
Yeah, and you don't know. So yeah, for me, it doesn't apply to me in a way that I didn't even have to think about that because that's just what I do. It's like, so that's what and I knew that was what was counting towards our weekly income. So we started, after a while, we started adding the top recruiters. So in orange, it's the top 3 recruiters of the week. So Vanessa had 7 coaches, Karen 4, and Marie-Pierre 4. And then at the bottom, we put top recruiters, everybody that had 2. But then again, start where you are. Like back in August 2013, I did not put anyone. Like just thinking that someone on my team would recruit 2 coaches in a week was like insane in my head. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
So that's one thing that we did, and also started to focus on that and recognizing it. And like we're teaching the team it's important to do that. It's not just about getting your face on the board. It's like, hey, this is what's important to grow your business, and that's why we recognize it. So
and I think it's great that you recognize the team volume they create, because like, for example, that Cindy that created 1,700 team volume for in your one leg, she might have like 3,000 personal volume, but because the team volume that comes from challenge packs is different than the personal volume, she might be like, hey, how come the board says 1,700 when my personal volume really was like 3,000? And that's a great opportunity for us as leaders to explain to our coaches, like, there's a difference between PV and TV.
Oh, yeah. And I learned it because I remember my upline, she had to put a prize. She's like, the first person hit 1,000 at TV, like the customer volume, will get a prize. And I was like, yay, this week I hit it. But it was my personal volume. So I was like, oh, back in the day, we used to be able to see it ourselves, like customer PV in the office. They removed it. I actually put a request with my mentor and said, we need that back. And I think a lot of people have been talking about that too. We want to be able to recognize it because that's what's bringing in money from the team volume bonuses. So
yeah, I think that's, so for you guys that are listening to this now or to the recording, like if you have a coach in your downline that sells 2 challenge packs, that coach would get 150 personal volume for each challenge pack. So they'd have 300 personal volume points, which is great. But a challenge pack only creates 35 team volume for the upline. Only 35 team volume rolls up. So like you might click on your team volume, your LV and your RV, and you'll see someone's name and you'll see 70 team volume, even though they, got personal volume of 300.
Yeah. And Shakeology gives you 90 PV and TV.
Right. That's why Shakeology, that's why getting people to not just buy a challenge pack, but to stay on Shakeology is so huge, because then you're getting 90 personal volume, the coaches that sell it, but then there's 90 team volume that rolls up to all the upline, everyone in the upline.
And also knowing your product catalog and understanding the difference between personal volume and team volume, and teaching your team other things than challenge packs.
Yeah.
I still lead with challenge pack, and I still believe in the solution and the total package, but we teach the funnel, where like we're going to lead with the challenge pack. And that's our offer, that's what I'm going to offer at the end of a conversation with someone when I pinpointed her needs and I'm going to, refer to a few programs that I think she would work for her. But then like if there's an objection or whatever, I address the objection. I make sure that that's going to hold other call, but I make sure that we understand each other right. But if it's a no for the challenge pack, then what's next, maybe she's not interested in Shakeology. Maybe she would love to try my magic juice and recover. Like, maybe she would love to get on demand for a year and add an Energize to the cart. That's a lot of volume too. And so teaching that to your team, different ways of meeting people's needs. And again, it's always leading with the customer first, right? And what do they need? And
Right.
You were saying, transition that I was focusing on the challengers first. We're still super like vital process oriented, but then again, like these usually become our best coaches. They're lifers. They love the products. They don't have to. I always say that you can't fake passion or enthusiasm. Like, I fell in love with Turbo Fire. It freaking rocked my world and it changed my life. Like, I would talk to anybody about it, even if I wasn't making a dime. It wasn't the point. So I want to get back to Andrea. She was talking about numbers here. I'm not sure if it's a question or if she wants to understand better.
Oh, I think so. Like, if you bring up that spreadsheet again.
Yeah.
She was saying, like, sometimes people are like, how do I make 100? How do I make 1,000 a week just from team bonus?
Yes. I'll share this board instead. I think this one is easier to understand, right? If you want to make $1,000, let's say as a ruby here, it should have showed the $1,000 for a diamond too, but let's say for a diamond, if you want to make $2,000, then it gives you on the week leg. There's two ways, right? Either you do the 2-to-1 ratio, which is like twice as much volume on your strong leg and then the rest on the weak leg, or you can do balanced legs, which is typically easier to create compared to like a perfect 2-to-1 ratio. But then you can refer back also to your carryover volume, which is something like you don't want to have any of it. Yeah. That's another goal.
Right. So like as a diamond, if you want to make $2,000 a week, you would need either 11,000 on one and 22,000 on the other, or you could have 16,000 a week on each leg. Mm-hmm. Legs are even. The only thing that this thing's missing is like, if you have, 2-3 business centers, you have your spouse.
Yeah.
You don't need this much team volume to make 2,000 a week.
That's right.
You start double and triple dipping. And yes. Did that Excel spreadsheet you showed us before?
Yes.
Did that have like a second part that like showed if you have like a spouse's business center?
Oh, I'm not sure. Let me just go back to here. Let me see. Where is it?
The one that you were talking to Dave Ward about, I think.
Do you see that? Do you see it?
Yeah, there was like, it says CBC number 2.
Where is that? Sorry, I never looked.
It says CBC number 2 at Emerald, $14 per
Oh, okay, that's another example. Okay.
Oh, so that's if you have a second business center.
Yeah, and this one would be an Emerald. I think it's it's funny. I always thought about this like, well, if you want to test it out as an Emerald or test it out as a diamond. Yeah, I'm not sure about that, but it's true. Like if you have a spouse or once you get to 2-star, like that's super motivating because you end up placing your second business center on your weak leg, and you put all your new sales, new customers there. And then again, my strategy for me is not so much getting to diamond so fast. Yes, it's important that I'm going to get there fairly quickly, but it's mostly to start building the weak leg of that CBC.
Yeah. It's funny. I just had a conversation with a couple coaches last week who have 2 legs that are pretty strong, and they have their husband at the top of one of their legs, but their husband has no weak leg. Like they have themselves and they have 2 strong legs. Their husband is at the top, so he has 1 strong leg. And I said to them, you could sign coaches, sponsor them yourself, but place them in your husband's weak leg. And so they're starting to kind of do that, and they're starting to already see they're double dipping.
I do that with my multiple CBCs now. Like I'll sponsor them mostly. It's important for me to maintain a higher rank too in my first because the volume is there too. So I keep focusing on that. And then I sponsored them from my first business center and then placed them in various CBCs. So that's a fun part too. And then again, like you never know how it's going to turn out, but I always tell the coaches on our team, make the best decision that you think is best right now with your current goals and what you think the person might be producing. Because you're like, oh, this person's going to be a rock star. And then you end up not doing anything. And then sometimes you're like, oh, this person became a rock star. What if I would have placed her? You don't want to play that game. It's like, no, you're going to be fine. Let's have a question here. How do you sign someone under you? Yeah. Under you, but under weak leg of CBC. I've never done it before. I mean, I don't want to get into that too specific. I don't know if it's maybe something that you can talk with Patrick, because sometimes it can get tricky if you have a big organization. If you're just starting doing that, it's pretty easy. If you go to your graphical genealogy and you find the name of your spouse, let's say, and you click on the little icon where there is like an empty space on their weak leg. What I do now is, because it's like big and it's like way too long to scroll down and trying to find out, I'll sign up in the CBC that I want to start building volume on the weak leg. So let's say CBC 4. I'm like, okay, I want to start building my weak leg of CBC 4. I'll sign up under my CBC 4. I'll go to bottom right. Let's say it's bottom right. My right leg is my weak leg. I'll find that placement ID. I'll save it like in notes, whatever. I sign out, or I use a different browser. And then I'll sign back in my first CBC. I'll go to graphical genealogy and I'll search for that ID. And this is where I'm going to place the placement. So I know sometimes it's complicated but it's pretty simple. Once you do it once, you get it. It's the important thing is to remember that you still want to build outside. Like you don't want to mistakenly like place someone in an inside leg of a CBC that's never gonna get built.
We could do like a quick, Christina, what's your last name in the Coach Online office?
Good. Tropiano.
TR.
I actually think I messed up once in the beginning and had signed up someone like that and then fixed it. And it's kind of coming to me again. If I go to preferred placement.
Yeah, and that's something to, yeah.
Sorry.
And then I go to placement ID, I would put in my husband's, correct? Instead of the placement ID being mine.
So you want to sign a coach on your husband's weak leg, you're saying. And what's your husband's name in the online?
It's a whole confusing thing. His last name's Harps.
Right. Okay. So let me just share my screen here. So this is you here, and then you have your right leg. And I think this is what Emilie was talking about. If you click on your name and you click on genealogy, you can see that you have 39 coaches in your left and you have 43 coaches in your right. If you click on his name, you can also see that.
Mm-hmm.
You can see that he has 37 in his left and 1 in his right. So what you'd want to do is double click on this spot right here, and then you're signed in as yourself in your own Coach Online office, and you go and you double click in this spot right here. The coach is going to be still sponsored by you, but they're going to be placed right here in his right leg. So this coach is still helping your left leg. It's creating team volume for your left leg. At the same time, it's creating team volume for his right leg. So you're both earning team volume in your weak leg and in his weak leg.
Yeah, so that's a really good strategy. And right now, because there's room right away, it's fairly easy to do it from your own CBC, right away, because you see it. But at one point when you have 20 coaches, sometimes what I prefer doing is sign up under my husband's account, go find the bottom right or bottom left ID. But then that's just a way of doing things. Like right now, what you showed is perfect. It's just, you see it right away. But after a certain period of time when you've signed up hundreds of coaches, it gets a little bit tricky to scroll down. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. So you would when you get the 2-star diamond, you're probably going to put your second business center right in this leg here. And as you build your second business center, it's going to be building his weak leg and your first business center's weak leg. And obviously it's building your second business center because you're putting coaches under that. So you start to triple dip. So that's kind of rule of thumb, is you always kind of put your next business center in the weak leg of the last one. So this is funny, because this is exactly what I was talking to the other coaches about, was if you want to start still sponsoring them by yourself, but you can start placing them in this right leg of your husband. So you start to create more team volume for his right.
Oh, yeah. And if you want your husband on board, I always say, and I'm not joking, show him the money.
Yeah.
When back in the day, we used to have checks in the mail, right? So literally, I say that as a joke, but at the same time, it's true. It's like, and it's not just about the money, but like, it's also about like being serious and consistent and showing up every day for your business. At one point, your spouse realizes this is not just a game, right there. She's serious. He's serious. He's really into that. So, but like, for me, like, because I was at home, taking care of the kids, it made it more understandable that the laundry was not always all done.
Yeah. Show him the money.
I remember Melanie Mitchell posted something like that. She had like a basket of clothes. That was one post on her social media, and it said, "This does not make me money."
Right.
It's like, that's right.
Yeah, the money activities. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, like that little strategy of starting to still, sponsor them by yourself with your business center, so you can, rank advance and get more stars. So you, go to 5-star, but placing them in that weak leg of your husband is all of a sudden now the same amount of volumes, creating almost twice as much income. And so that's when your husband, will say, okay, you're starting to show me the money. You're starting to double dip, and then eventually triple dip when you get that second.
And that's when also offering the discount coaching opportunity is interesting, because if you sign people as a customer, you make a commission. No one in the downline gets to see them. Your upline gets to make money. No one in the downline gets to see it. If you're starting to emphasize, and I mean, I'm not pushy for it or whatever, but I offer it consistently. Like, when someone's ready to buy, I offer them the 2 options. You can sign up as a customer, or you can sign up as a coach. I used Danielle Natoni's phrasing. It was perfect when she did a call for us. She's like, it's the same price, but the second one you're going to get to pay your 17, blah, blah, blah. And it's like a membership at Costco. You pay a membership so you can get better deals. So what would you like to do? And then if they sign up as a coach, then I place them in my organization so people benefit from it. It's not just me. There's someone who sees a new coach in their downline, but if I sign them as a customer, no one sees them.
Yeah.
For my upline.
Right. So like if you place a coach here in this bottom right, and they are buying Shakeology every month, it's creating team volume for your husband, and it's creating team volume for yourself, and it's creating team volume all the way up for everybody in the downline.
Everybody wins.
Everybody wins. Versus if you just are having a customer here in your business center, it doesn't help your husband's or your second. So a lot of times they'll have, like, if you had your son.
Oh, I see you have Dr. Joe Dispenza on. Oh my God, I love him.
Yeah, Joe, he's the man.
He's the man.
I know. Cool. I've been listening to his meditations a lot lately. I really.
Did you get his book?
Getting more and more into it.
Did you get his book, Supernatural?
I have his book. I have a different one. It's not called Supernatural. It's called like something else.
He's cool. Cool.
Yeah, he's awesome. But yeah, anybody else have any other questions? Anything specific or general for the master here?
I love talking about that stuff.
I know. I could tell. I mean, when our first conversation, and then I remember, I think I said to you, like, do you know Bob Lucido? Because just the way you were like talking, I was like, maybe you know Keith Callahan or something. And of course you did, because I think people that kind of learned from them the way, because I learned from them too. Like we kind of have the same language. It's the 45-second presentation language, you know?
Yeah. That was a great gift that I got. Like, and it was a free PDF I had in my inbox, and it really opened my mind of like focusing on that. I thank you guys for having me. I hope this was helpful.
Yeah, it was awesome. I actually do that sometimes. Like if someone's interested in the business and I can tell their numbers, they have a good numbers brain, I'll send them the free PDF of the 45-second presentation. I'll just Google free 45-second presentation PDF and send them the link and just say, hey, read the first 2 chapters of this.
Yeah, and he talks about the retail trap. So that's why, like, when you asked me about the shift, I was like, you know what? I already knew, like, from the earliest years that it was not going to work for me if I was just trying to be the retail top seller. Like, this is not how our business works. I'm adding the link to the Google spreadsheet if you guys want to save it. I believe I made it just so, well, I think you can only see it, so you can create a copy after. If not, just play with the numbers. We'll figure it out.
Awesome. That's cool.
All right.
Well, this was great. Thank you so much. We can do a little boom on 3 for team boom.
Yeah.
So you guys do a little boom on 3, kind of like your soccer days.
Perfect. I'll show my shake.
All right, cool. I'm going to let you guys, I'll unmute you guys here.
Tag me on Instagram so I can share it.
I will. All right. I think my nephews have a snow day today. My flight got out just before the storm, but I see him over there. All right, guys, let's give her a big boom on 3. 1, 2, 3. Boom! Love it.
Boom. I thought you meant the boomerang. I was like, that's what we do on our team. It's like, he's calling it a boom.
Huh?
Because your team boom. I screwed it up. I'm sorry.
Let's do a boomerang, too.
Because that's what we do. Let's do boomerang. And I'll do boom.
1, 2, 3.
Boom.
Love it. Awesome.
I don't get sick of it.
Thank you so much. This was awesome. Thank you.
Bye. Take care.
See you guys.
Thank you.